2023 has began. One of the big stories you've been hearing about has been the atmospheric river and the impacts that's had on California. Now, I wanted to dive into what an atmospheric river is and those impacts we've been seeing. An atmospheric river, in simplest terms, is basically a conveyor of moisture that is moving off of the oceans and toward land. This happens as air moves and travels across the oceans. It picks up a lot of moisture from that water. Then you get storm systems developing out there. Those can intensify the winds and increase that flow, picking up even more moisture, making it much more effective at transporting all of that moisture-rich air toward land. Now, the result are narrow bands of very moisture-heavy air approaching land and producing bands of heavy rainfall. Now, when that moisture arrives along the coastline, the coast itself, the land itself, can actually help intensify the rainfall that you're seeing. This is a similar process to how we get lake effect snow coming off of the Great Lakes here. When that air that has picked up all of that moisture arrives on land, land is sitting at a higher elevation. That forces that air to start moving up into the atmosphere. As you force air to rise, well, it hits colder temperatures and condensation occurs. That condensation will eventually result in rain developing and intensifies that precipitation that's already moving inland. And then you can see that continuing to take place when you hit even higher elevations such as mountains. That results in even colder air in the higher elevations, and snowfall takes place. A lot of the water that's delivered to the state of California comes during the warmer months from melting snow off of these mountains. So this is a beneficial process. The problem is it has been going nonstop, on and on, storm system after storm system, and it's too much water for the state to be able to take in at one time. In fact, that pattern is going to continue into the coming days. As of the time we're recording this on Thursday, take a look here at Future Tracker showing air pressure and where there's storm systems. We have another storm system approaching the west coast here as we get into the start of the weekend. Into early next week, another area of low pressure moving into the coast of California. All of those will tap into that moisture-rich air. You can see as we look at the upper levels atmospheric moisture content, one of those coming in with that first storm system on Saturday. You have another plume of moisture that arrives as we come into the early part of next week. All of these storm systems will continue to produce heavy rainfall in parts of the state where they are already inundated with all that rain. Looking at this particular model, suggesting another large swath of the state by the time we get into next week, seeing upwards of 2 to maybe as high as 5 or 6 additional inches of rain. And that's as we go through just next week. So for the folks in California, hopefully this pattern will break down. They need some time to try and dry out as they've needed the rainfall, but they did not need all of that rainfall this fast. But that's an explanation of what an atmospheric river is in simplest terms. It is just a conveyor belt of moisture arriving at the coast. You may have heard of the term Pineapple Express. That is the same thing. It's just referring to that moisture coming out of tropical locations around Hawaii. A lot of pineapple is grown in Hawaii, so think of it as an express route, that tropical moisture coming from the Hawaiian Islands and moving inland, delivering all of that moisture-rich air and lots of precipitation in the west.